In today's class, we'll be discussing data-driven testing using different files: Excel file, JSON file, and CSV file. Most of the times, we'll prefer JSON file and then CSV and then Excel for data-driven testing in APIs. If it is web automation, web data-driven testing, web application data-driven testing, we'll prefer this Excel file and CSV file. Right, but if it is API, JSON and CSV is mostly preferred than Excel. But it is web, Excel, and CSV. Right. First of all, what is data-driven testing? What is data-driven testing? So data-driven testing, it is nothing but you are testing a functionality in an application, web application, or you are testing an API. Right. So that API you will feed with multiple sets of test data, and you will execute the same API multiple rounds. Why you need to execute? Why you need to feed the data? To validate the behavior of a specific functionality, or it can be an API. Right? So to validate that behavior, we'll go for data-driven testing. So running the same API multiple times with different sets of input data or test data to validate behavior of an API under different data points, nothing but different conditions, various conditions. This running is called as an data-driven testing. Data-driven testing. So we need this data-driven testing to validate the behavior. So what different type of behaviors? Behaviors in the sense here, these are nothing but scenarios. Right? So test positive and negative scenarios to cover boundary values, to check invalid inputs, whether it will take invalid inputs, whether it will process those invalid inputs or not. If I pass empty values, will that API will accept or not? Or do you have any checkpoints in the API? Whether that API is validating as expected, right? So for these things, you need this data-driven testing. So to avoid writing duplicate test code for different inputs to increase test coverage and reusability, will go for data-driven testing. As I said earlier, we mostly prefer different files, right? First preference is given for JSON files, which they maintain test data, which we will maintain test data. Next preference will be gone for this CSV files. Next, it is Excel files. And in very rare cases, we'll also use this configuration file AML. It is very, very, very rare, right? If your test data is very large, we'll go for database. Right, so these are places where you can maintain your test data: JSON files, CSV files, and Excel files. This is what an order of priority. If you are doing API testing, go for JSON files and then CSV files. Give less priority to Excel, AML, and database. If you are doing web automation, if you are doing data driven testing in web automation, right, go for CSV and Excel files. Right, in this session, we'll discuss how to work with JSON, CSV, and Excel files. How you can do data-driven testing with the test data in these files. We'll not discuss this AML and database. It is not at all required. Out of 100%, is 0.0001% where you can use this AML and databases for data-driven testing of APIs. So mainly we need to concentrate on JSON, CSV, and Excel files. Good. So before going to see this data-driven testing, let me do one simple activity. So in the day 6 of Postman, we have taken this books API, right? Day 6 of Postman, we have taken this books API. We have started creating different types of requests related to books, related to orders, right? So I have shared this simple PDF also. Simple books API we have taken, right? So in order to work with this APIs, you need to generate a token, right? We have generated the token also, right? So we have seen this step by step. So check API status, list books, right? So get single book, submit an order. For order related APIs, you need an token. The token we have generated, right? So submit an order, get all orders, get a single order, update an order, right? Delete an order. So these are multiple types of requests which we have seen. Creating a token, and the token is required for order related APIs, order related requests. For books related requests, you don't need this token. For only order related APIs, you need this token, and we have executed them in an order by passing test data from an external file, CSV and JSON file. Right? So that's what we have seen in day 6. So for a demonstration purposes using request library, so data driven testing in Python using request library, I'll take the same API. Right? So books API I will take, in that I'll take the submit order. Right? Submit order. So it will submit an order. Upon submitting an order, it will generate an order ID. That order ID I need to get a single order. To update that order also we need that order ID, and to delete that order also we need that order ID, right? So order ID is what a main thing here. You need to capture that from the submit orders. Good. How you can submit? If you go to body, this is what a request payload. Is it right? To submit an order with this request URL, you need book ID, you need customer name. These data points we need. So first we'll try to automate this, and I'll try to pass the same data from an different files, from different data points. Right here the data is hard coded. I'll try to create a simple script with hard coded data only. Later I'll do data driven testing for this submit order. Right? So observe here how I'll be doing step by step. You need to understand. I'll submit an order, I'll try to delete an order for your information. I'll not take get all orders, get single order, get update order. So you can try to add these things very easily once you understand this. Right? So what I have done, I have already created day 9. In day 9, I have created a subfolder which is test data folder. In test data folder, I have specified test data in different sources, right? CSV file, Excel file, and JSON file. JSON, Excel, and CSV. So double click on the JSON. So this is what a JSON data, which I will do, which I'll use this data for data driven testing. Similarly, CSV file, order CSV dot data. So book ID and customer name. Is it right? So these are the two things which I need to submit an order, right? So I specified the same details in different sources. So if you go to this Excel file, double click on that, you'll be able to see this data, test data here. So we'll try to read this data from all these data points. All right. So fine. Before going to do this, we need to submit an order. We'll check with hard coded data. Okay. So we'll try to check. Then you can understand. We'll try to repeat the same thing for different methods. We'll be seeing that. So I'll be creating a Python file. So submit delete order. Right? Submit and delete order. So I'll submit an order. I'll try to delete an order immediately because I don't need that order anymore. Right? For your information. So the same order ID you can capture. You can try to refer across single order and update order also. But I'm skipping this. I'm trying to get only these two requests out of here. Right? Submit and delete order. Good. So I'm working with APIs. So request library is mandatory. Right? So import requests. I'll also import JSON if I want to convert any Python object to JSON. I'll use this JSON. All right. So I'll try to create a class test order API. Right. This is what the name of the class. Class consists of method. Right. So define test submit delete order. Submit delete order. Right. This is what the name of the method. Good. So if it is a method inside a class, you need to have self as a mandatory parameter. And I'll try to define few class variables, or you can define those variables as a local variables also. If you have only one method, But if I have multiple methods, better to go for class variables. So I'll try to create class variables. So first variable which I'm going to create is base URL. Base URL. Why this base URL? If you observe the submit order, this is what an request URL. And if you try to observe this delete order, this is what an submit URL along with that order ID. So if I am using these two orders, submit order and delete order, can I make this base URL as a class variable? You can use that. You can try to make that. So I'll try to define a variable base URL. I'll try to define this class variable, right? I'll use this class variable if I create multiple methods regarding to this books API, right? So in the books, you have this order API, that's it, right? So what is that? Requests dot post or put, it is post. Why? You are trying to submit an order, then we'll try to delete an order, right? So post is what a request method, then you need this base URL. So class variable it is. How you can access that? By using class name or by using self. Multiple ways of accessing class variable. I'll use self dot base URL. Base URL, good. Observe here, in order to submit an order, what you need? First thing is authorization. That means you need a token, bearer token. Next is request body. Is it right? Authorization and body both are mandatory to work with the submit order API. So you need to generate this token. So how you can generate? For generating a token, you need to have this another API, right? That's what we have seen in Postman, right? So if you see, I need to use this endpoint and I need to use this request body, then I can get an access token, right? So if you see, this is what I create a token request. We have tried to specify this body and we are using this API endpoint to get the token. And if you observe this email, I'm randomly generating. Instead of using the same email multiple times, I'm trying to generate a random email, which I specified the script in the pre-request script tab to generate a random email. I'm just referring that. So before sending this request, email is created because you specified that script in pre-request script tab. Then the same email will be used as a value to this client email. So these are the two mandatory keys in this JSON data, right? In this JSON data. So this is what a request payload. Based on this request payload, it will give me access token. That access token I'll try to use here in this request. Or what you can do, you can try to create another test method as a fixture function with this body, and you can get an access token and you can use across multiple methods. I'm not going to discuss that. We have already seen how you can create a fixture function. You can try to do that. But here I'll try to get the token from this Postman. I'll try to use that a token, right? I'll click on send. So you can see this is what an access token which it will return me. So this access token is required to work with order related APIs. So here I'll try to define another variable auth token, right? So auth token it is. I'll try to copy this, control C, control V. So this is what a token. So I need this a token, which is a bearer token. I need to send along with this request, right? So it is a bearer token. Very good, right? So it is a bearer token. If you go to submit order bearer token, this bearer token will be sent with headers. Is it right? So you need to define headers also. Headers is another variable, right? Inside this test method only I'm defining. If you want, you can define at a class level also. All right. So another variable I'm defining headers. Headers is authorization. Is it right? With bearer must be prefixed along with that token. All right. So if you try to send this request, so order created. This is what an order ID. Fine. This is what a result response body. Go to console. Expand this request. right? You can see authorization is what a header, content type is what another mandatory header, other all auto generated. These two I need to send as a part of request headers. So authorization is a key, content type is a key. This is what a value for content type. This is what a value for authorization. So this value, if you observe, bearer must be there, followed by the token. Is it right? Bearer, is it is it there? Yeah, I need to prefix here. I'll prefix here itself. Bearer, right? So bearer, that's it. Bearer followed by the token. I'm trying to specify it as a value to this authorization header. Similarly, for content type application slash JSON. So I need this headers. I need to send along with this request. Is it right? Yes. I'll specify that. Comma, headers equal to headers. Headers equal to headers. Good. What is another important thing which you need to specify for this request? Request body. Request body, book ID and customer name. Book ID is a key, customer name is also a key. You need to specify this data, then it will try to create an order in the server. So this is a payload, all right? I'll try to define another variable, which is a payload, which I'm defining them here as an local variable. So not a problem. You can go for class variables also. Payload. So what is that? Book ID. Book ID, let me keep that as 1, and customer name, right? Customer name, let me take as John, right? So is it right? Is it the same format? Yes, the same format. Book ID and customer name. So I'll try to pass this payload along this request. Comma, payload, payload equal to payload. Can I try to specify like this? Why? You should not specify like this. The reason is payload in the sense this request will accept a JSON payload. But whatever the payload which you specify here, this is what a dictionary, this is what a Python object. This Python object should be converted to JSON string. How you can convert by using JSON library. So JSON dot dumps, JSON dot dumps. So what it will do, it will try to convert to JSON string. Self dot base URL headers payload, JSON dot dumps payload it is, right? So this is what up to here we need to be very clear. All right. So JSON dot dumps payload, and that's it. So close bracket for this request dot port. So upon sending a request, it will give you some response. Is it right? A response. I'll try to store it in some variable. I'll try to do some simple validation. Status code asset response dot status code. What must be the status code? If you try to create an order, it must be 201. Right? I'll try to keep that as 201. Otherwise, wrong status code, right? Wrong status code. And I'll also print this entire JSON response. From that JSON response, you can also get this order ID, right? Let me print that first. So print of response.json, right? So response.json. So let me execute this. All right. So class and method to create an order. I'm executing this. I'm not passing any data which is there in the file, but here I am hard coding the data, right? If you see here what it is saying, so got an unexpected keyword payload, right? Instead of payload, specify data. Data is fine. Instead of payload, specify data. That's it. Let us execute this one more time. Now you can see order got created, right? Please be clear here. Instead of payload, go for data. Data in the sense it's a payload. Right here, you specify the payload in this variable. I'm converting that payload to JSON string and passing that with data parameter, data input with this request. right? So order got created, status code is 201, assertion passed, and this is what an response, entire JSON response. From this JSON response, you need to capture this order ID. Then the same order ID I can use across multiple requests. So I'll try to take another request which is delete order. So I'll try to delete that order as soon as once it is created. Right? I'll try to capture this order ID also. So order ID response is what? Total response, which I'll capture in the form of JSON. This JSON is having order ID, right? I'll get that order ID. I'll try to store it in some variable. In the same method, I'll try to create another request for deleting an order, right? So up to here, it is what an submit order. Here it is delete order. You can create multiple methods. I'm not making it complex, right? So delete order it is, right? So if you want to delete an order, same request you can take, right? So base URL, and this must be appended with order ID. Is it right? So go to delete order. So order ID, you need to append that. So what I'll be doing, I'll be modifying this request dot. Instead of post, you need to call this delete function to delete a resource in the server. And base URL must be attached with order ID, right? So an endpoint path parameter here is what an order ID. So it is what a variable. You need to attach that with another variable which will hold this order ID, right? So I'll be going for this string formatting. I'll try to use this base URL slash order ID also, right? Order ID. So this is what a string formatting. And do you need any payload at the time of deleting that resource? I don't need any payload except this authorization header along with the content type. That's it. So it will give me response. So this is submit order response. This is delete response, right? So delete response. I'll try to have some simple assertion. So let me try to delete that order here from this Postman. If I try to delete, it should give me 204, right? And there is no response body here as well, right? So assert delete response dot status code equal to 204. Otherwise, order not deleted, right? Some simple code you can specify it here. So you can also print some simple message, order deleted, right? So order deleted, right? Here also for submit order submitted. Some simple messages I'll try to keep, and I'll also have another message with order ID. What is that? Order ID, right? Here, that's it. So submitting an order, deleting an order. For submitting an order, in the payload, I'm hard coding the details, book ID and customer name. Is it right? These are hard coded details, but I'll pass the same details from an external file in order to achieve data driven testing. Multiple data points I'll try to pass to this keys, which is nothing but data driven testing. So let us execute this with a submit and delete order. So post that will say data driven testing. If you see here, total one test in one single test only, in one method only, I have specified submit order and delete order. So order submitted with order ID, this is what an order ID, and as soon as it is submitted, it got deleted also, order deleted. Good, it is working fine. To the same test method, I'll try to pass multiple sets of data in the payload for book ID and customer name. So it is data driven testing. So before going to do that, before going to see that data driven testing, you need to understand one important concept in PyTest, that is parameterization. Parameterization. Parameterization is also called as an data-driven testing. Data-driven testing, right? It will allow parameterization will allow us to test method to run test method multiple times. Parameterization. Tell me, if it is a data-driven testing, you'll have multiple sets of data points in an external file. During runtime, you'll pass that data to a test method, so that test method will be executed multiple times. Is it right? The same thing you can achieve with parameterization. We'll try to use this, one of the most important functionality of PyTest. So parameterization, we'll try to read the data from an external file. We'll try to pass the data to a field, right? So in a payload, right? So parameterization allows us a test method to run multiple times with different data sets without using loops. Very important thing it is. When I teach Selenium with Python, we do data driven testing there with Excel file and CSV file. In an Excel file, you'll have rows and columns, and ultimately cells. In the cells, you have the data. You need to get the data from a specific cell by specifying the location, row number and column number. That means you need to iterate through each and every row. You need to get the data. Multiple for loops you need to write, right? Nested loops you need to write. So to avoid that, we can use this parameterization concept. So without using loops, without using nested loops, you can get the data from an file, from an external file. We'll use that concept. Instead of writing loop statements, we can use this marker @pytest dot mark dot parameterize. Simple marker you can just call. You can specify this before a test method which you want to have this data driven testing without having multiple loops, right? So what this will do, it will read the data, how many data points you have, that many times it will try to run the test method very efficiently. It will pass the test data to the test method for multiple rounds. We'll see this, how we can achieve this, right? We can achieve this data driven testing with parameterization without need of using the loops. This is what the best approach, right? So I'll try to create another module just for understanding this concept, right? Then we'll see data driven testing. Test underscore parameterization, right? So parameterization. So I'll try to import PyTest because parameterization is was a feature of PyTest. So I need this PyTest to call that marker. I'll try to create a class test class, right? This class consists of a method, right? Test calculation, right? Calculation. Since it is a method, it must have self, and this method will take two inputs. One is number one and number two, right? Number one and number two. And what this simple method will do, it will just simply assert. Assert, it will, in the sense, it will validate whether this num1 equal to num2. Some simple method it is, without making it complex. Num1 equal to num2. Some simple assertion validation whether these two inputs are equal or not. You are doing this as a part of this simple method. Tell me, can I call this method with one set of data? You can call. You can call this test method. You can try to specify the inputs to this num1 and num2. One set of input per one call. If you call another time, you need to pass another set of data. Another call, another set of data. So how many times you need to repeat the same thing? Multiple times. So to avoid that, if you want to pass multiple sets of data and you need to execute this test method multiple times, you can go for parameterization concept. Before this test method, specify the marker @pytest dot mark dot parameterize. Mark dot parameterize. Good. To this marker, specify the inputs which you have to the test method. Right? So what are the inputs? Num1, num2. You need to follow the same syntax. That's it. To this inputs, specify list of tuples which are nothing but different data points, right? So 1 1 I will pass, 5 20 I can pass, 10 10 I can pass, 3 5 I can pass. When you execute this test method, first this marker will be executed. This marker consists of these two inputs. To these inputs, you have multiple data points. This is first set of data, second set of data, third set of data, fifth set of data. So every set will be assigned to these variables. And this test method will be executed this many number of times. How many data points you specified, how many test data points you specified, that many times this test method will be executed. How many times it will be executed? Test method. So 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number of data points here, test data points here, 4. For each iteration, for each round, value is assigned to num1 and num2. The same values will be passed to this test method. You are avoiding to write the loops. I'm not at all writing the loops. You can achieve the same thing by this marker, parameterization feature in PyTest. Now observe here, I'm executing this entire class. Right? Tell me how many methods inside this class you have? Only one method. But why it is saying total 4 tests here? That means single test method is executing 4 times. Single test method only in this class is executing 4 times. So 4 test total. And you can see 2 tests failed, 2 passed. Why? In the first iteration, in the first round, 1 comma 1 is assigned to num1 comma num2. The same values will be passed to this inputs of this test method. The same values will come here for this assertion. So 1 equal to 1, it is passed. Next 3 comma 5, 3 is not equal to 5, but you are checking for equality. It is failed. So 1 failed. 10 comma 10 passed. 5 comma 20, it is failed. So total 4, out of 4, 2 passed and 2 failed. Tell me, are you able to pass this multiple data points to this test method? Have you written any loops here? Tell me. A loop inside loop. One loop for rows, another loop for columns. Did you specify? No. But are you executing this test method multiple times or not? Multiple data points with multiple data points or not? So this is data-driven testing. You can achieve this data-driven testing by parameterization feature in PyTest. We'll use this PyTest feature. We'll try to implement this data-driven testing, right? So I'll try to create another module, which is test underscore data-driven testing. Data-driven testing. So I'll take the same submit and delete order. Same order, guys. Right? I'll try to take the same order. But what I'll do, I'll try to keep this as simple as possible. I won't create in the form of a class, but I'll follow the naming conventions. Right? I'll try to remove this self. Right? So this is what a test method. To this test method, I'll define two variables. One is book ID, right? And customer name. Customer name. The same book ID, instead of hard coding here, I'll try to specify that. So book ID. So this book ID at the time of passing, it is a string. I'll convert that to integer safe side. It must accept this integer only. Next, you need this customer name also, right? So instead of hard coding, I'll specify this. That's it. The same code I'm taking, but right now I'm not creating inside a class. If you want, you can also create. We have already seen how you can create. This is another way of writing the code. Now, I'll try to execute this method. Only it is a method. It is a function, guys, not a method also. It is a function. This function will try to submit an order, will try to delete an order. I'll try to execute the same function multiple times with multiple sets of data points. What data points we have? Book ID and customer name. book ID and customer name. So these data points, values to this inputs, I'll read from this external files which is there in the test data. So I'll create another module which will pass data to this function, right? So if you see, this is what a scenario. So you have this function. Let me try to take this pen. You have test data in a file, external file, right? So you have function, is it right? So from this file, you need to pass the values to this function. Can you pass directly? Can you keep the file as it is to this test function? No. You should read the data. After reading the data, you need to pass the data. So you have a file. From this file, you need to read the data. After reading the data, you need to pass to test function. Is it right? Test function. So this reading data is called as an data provider here. Data provider. Why? After reading data, you are providing the data to this test function. So the name must be appropriate. Data provider. Data provider module I will create. After creating, I'll try to refer this module as an input to parameterization marker, right? We'll try to see that. So for that, this is what a base test underscore parameterization, right? So I'll keep this as it is, this module, right? So test underscore data driven testing. I'll try to execute this function multiple times, right? So first I'll try to create this data provider test underscore data providers. You have data points in multiple places, CSV, Excel, and JSON. For all these, you need to have a methods, right? You need to have a functions so that they can read the data and they can pass the data to that function. So you can create a method, you can create a function. It's up to you. The logic is up to you. All right. So I'll try to import JSON. I will interact with JSON file. I'll try to import CSV to interact with CSV files. I'll import OpenPyXL, which is most commonly used for data-driven testing. You have other alternative, which is Pandas also. Pandas is mainly used for data analysis. But for data-driven testing in automation, we'll go for OpenPyXL. Right? So I'll try to import these three libraries first. So import JSON, import CSV. I'll also import OpenPyXL, import OpenPyXL, right? These are the three libraries. So if you see this requirements.txt, JSON is already an inbuilt library. So you need this CSV. CSV is also an inbuilt library. OpenPyXL. Did you specify it here? Yeah, it is not specified. So what you can do, you can keep it here in your case. Because I have already installed this. So that is the reason it is not raising any issue here. Right? So you can specify requirements.txt. You can go to terminal. You can simply execute pip install -r requirements.txt. Right? This is what you already know. So add a dependency in requirements.txt, execute a simple command from the terminal. Good. Now, for each file, I'll create a function. That function will get the data, will pass the data upon calling to a test method, or it can be a test function, right? First thing, JSON data provider, right? So JSON data provider. So for working with JSON files, I'm implementing this utility function. All right, guys, before going to see this, another important observation. Tell me, before this method, you have used this marker, right? This marker is having input names of this test method, and you have list of tuples. 1 comma 1 is a tuple. 3 comma 5 is a tuple. 10 comma 10 is a tuple. 5 comma 20 is a tuple, right? So that means data points, test data, you need to specify in the form of a tuples, a list of tuples. If you see here, order.csv, json.csv, as like Excel, each object you need to create in the form of a tuple if it is JSON. If it is CSV, comma separated. So each row you need to create in the form of a tuple. And all the tuples you need to keep it in a list. Is it right? Based on this only, you need to create a function. So observation is important here. So I'll create a data provider for JSON. I'll create a simple function. So define read JSON data. Read JSON data. So I'll specify this file path also where I have this JSON data file. I'll try to get that data in that file. Once you specify the file path, it can read the data. Now tell me what type of data you have here. What type of data? It is a JSON data, right? In the JSON file. But when you read the file using programming language, you take Python, it will be treated as a dictionary. Is it right? So I need this dictionary to be converted to JSON again. So for that, what I can do, I can use JSON library. So JSON.load for reading the data, JSON.dumps for converting dictionary data to JSON string, right? So these important things you need to understand. So observe here, test to data providers. I'll try to open the file. It is a file. You need to open the file. You need to read the data. Then upon that data, you need to create a tuple, list of a tuple, right? So with very important, observe here. So with open, I need to open the file which is there in this file path, comma, in which mode? I don't want to write anything to this file, but I want to read the entire data in the read mode. So to this object, give some simple name, alias name, which is F. Now you can use JSON library, JSON.load, read entire data in this file. Store the data as a list, right? So data list it is. If you read the data, it will return me entire data in the form of a list. Observe here, I'll printing this entire data list. Step by step, we need to write the code. I'll just call this function, guys, right? So read JSON data, you need to specify this file path. So how you can specify, right click on the file, click on copy path or reference, click on absolute path, right? So inside codes, you need to specify this absolute path. Don't worry, we'll try to see another way of getting this location. Here I'm going for R strings because in Python, backslash is treated as an escape character. So to avoid that, to make that as a valid path, you can go for R strings or you can keep double backslash, right? So instead of double backslash, I'm keeping R, right? So I'll execute this. Simply I'm executing. Observe here, guys. So no test ran, right? So you are creating as a part of this naming convention, right? So that is the reason it is not able to. So what I will do, I will try to rename this for time being, then I'll try to refactor this. All right. So rename, I'll try to remove this. I'll try to refactor this going ahead. For your information, to make you understand, I'm trying to call this, right? Data providers. You can see this is what the data which it is giving. Every object is inside this list. Very good. Every object is inside this list. Is it right? How many data points we have? Multiple data points in this entire JSON file. Entire JSON file you are able to read and it is giving me a list. Good. List of dictionaries. But tell me, for using this parameterization feature, you need list of tuples, not list of dictionaries. Right? So from this list, I'll try to create a tuple, right? So list of tuples, how I'll be creating. Observe here, guys, very important thing it is. So for each item in this list, right? So can I write that for for each item, right? For each item in data list. Data list is what a list. From this item, take this item which is there in the data list, create a tuple. So how you can create a tuple? By using open and close parenthesis. Open and close parenthesis. If you keep that item inside open and close parenthesis, that will be treated as an tuple. Very important. It is not treated as a tuple. It is treated as an respect to data type based on the value of this item. But I want to make this as a tuple. Right? So what I'll do, I'll specify comma. When we discuss a tuple, very important point it is. Single valued tuple. Why I need to create a tuple? For achieving parameterization, I need to have list of tuples, not list of dictionaries. So from this dictionary, each item which is a dictionary, I'll take that dictionary, I'll try to make it as a tuple. Right? How you can do that? Take each item, specify comma, keep that inside parenthesis. That is a single valued tuple. So entire tuple, I'll try to keep them inside list. Multiple concepts in one single shot I'm using. List comprehension, single valued tuple for each item in the data list, which is a list. From that list, I'm creating another list, which is list comprehension. That list consists of tuples. Right? Now, observe here. Return, I'll try to return this. When you call this function, I'll try to return this list of tuples. For your information, I'll also print so that you can understand print of data list, and I'll try to print this also. So print of this list of tuples. Observe here, guys. I'm executing. This is what a list consists of dictionary. Each dictionary, I'm converting that to again a tuple. Each item here is a dictionary. So dictionary, comma. Is it right? It is what a tuple. Now I can take this tuple. I can pass this tuple as an input to a function. Right? So can we do that? Yes, we'll do that. I'll try to refactor this again. Test underscore data providers.py. Right? So I don't want this data list printing everything, because just for your information, I have just printed it here. I have this JSON data, read JSON data function. I can use this function as an input to this parameterization feature, right? So if you see, if we go to here, I'll remove all these things. Test underscore data driven testing. So this is what a function. I'll try to execute this function multiple times with multiple sets of test data, which is there in the JSON. For reading that JSON data, I have created an data provider function. Now observe here. What I'll do, I'll try to create a simple function here, right? Define test with JSON data. Test with JSON data. Good. Right? Now this JSON data, which is a combination of list of tuples, I need that so that I can pass to this function, right? So I'll try to specify this function here. Guys, it's very important. It is somewhat confusing here. Observe. I'm just calling this function with JSON data. So before this function, I'll try to specify a marker. So at the rate PyTest dot mark dot parameterize. So if you see, this function is returning me order data, right? So it is returning me order data, right? Observe here, guys. So only order data it is returning, right? So order data, right? So order data. I'll try to keep this as an order data here as an input, right? Order data, right? This function needs order data. That order data consists of book ID and customer name. We'll try to refine that. Please wait for something. Good. The same input must be specified in the parameterization marker, and and to this marker, you need to specify list of data points to this order ID. Is it right? List of data points. So this list of data points, you can get it from this data providers function. Is it right or wrong? So what you need to do, you need to import this data provider function also, right? So observe here, I'll be importing from test data providers import read JSON data. Read JSON data. So I'll just pass this function here. Read JSON data. You need to pass that file path, right? So how you can pass? Observe here, guys. Previously, I have hard coded. Now I'll try to copy the location of the file very easily, right? Observe here. When I put a dot in the sense current working directory, right? Dot in the sense current working directory. So what is the current working directory where I have kept this module? Day 9. In day 9, you have test data, right? Which is a child. So how you can get the child? Slash forward slash test data. Test data. Good. So in this folder, you have this orders JSON data dot JSON, right? So just specify that file. That's it. Orders JSON data dot JSON. That's it. So it will call this function. This function will return me list of tuples. Each tuple is a single valued dictionary. From that dictionary, get this ID and customer name. Right. So this order ID. So order data. Right. So order data it is. So order data of 0. Why I'm specifying that? Why I'm specifying that? Guys, we have seen here. When you try to print this, it will return me list of tuples. Each tuple again a dictionary. Dictionary in the sense key and value pair. That key is a book ID and another key is a customer name. So first element in a tuple is having index number as 0. Is it right? So observe here, simple concept it is, basic concept. You have list of tuples. This is one tuple, comma, another tuple, single value tuples these are, comma, another tuple it is. You are accessing each and every tuple by using for loop, let's suppose. So if you are using for loop inside this list, you access the first tuple. Good. This is what a first tuple. Single valued tuple. What is single element inside this tuple? For a single element, what is the index number? 0 is what index number. So that's what I'm specifying it here. Right? Order data of 0. Good. And instead of a single value here, you have key and value. Right? So book ID and customer name. Right? So book ID and customer name. So key and value. So specify the key, get the value. Specify the key, get the value. So here, this order ID consists of book ID. Right? So order is what? A dictionary. This dictionary consists of book ID. Is it right? Is it right? If you see this JSON data, yes. Get this ID, that's it. Job is done. Order ID of customer name. Order ID of customer name, right? That's it. Is it right? Same function you are executing with JSON data. Similarly, I'll create another function for Excel, another function for CSV. Instead of writing multiple loops, which is an unnecessary code, you can use this parameterization feature. Right? Now let us execute this. You can see 5 test cities. Do you really have 5 tests? No. I only have one test it is. Submit delete order. But it is executing, this function is executing multiple times. Why? because of this parameterization feature. So based on the number of data points, this function will be executed that many times. How many data points you have in this orders JSON data.json? 5 data points, right? So this is one object, another object, third object it is, fourth object, and fifth object it is. Total 5 data points we have. So 5 book IDs, 5 customer names. So this function is executed 5 times. Single test, multiple data points, multiple rounds it has executed. This is data driven testing. This is data driven testing. Now let us achieve with CSV file. All right. So I'll try to create another function which is CSV data provider. It is also very, very easy. Right. I'll try to create. So define read CSV data. CSV data. I'll specify this file path as like in the above function. All right. So I'll try to open the file in the read mode. All right. I'll try to open. Now I'll try to create a reader object. So what that reader object will do, it will read each row line by line. Right. In the CSV file, you have comma separated values. Is it right? I'll try to have this comma separated values in each and every row. So I need to iterate through each and every row to read this comma separated values. So I'll create a reader object. So CSV dot reader, just to call this function, right? Just to create a reader object so that try to store it in a variable. A reader is what a variable. So what it will do, it will create a reader object to read each row line by line in a CSV file. And if you see here, first row is what a header row. I don't want this header row. From starting from second row onwards, I have actual data. So I need this actual data. So I'll try to skip this first row. So how you can skip by using next, next of reader, which is a generator here. So reader here, it is a generator. To go to another row, you can use this next, right? So reader, that's it. Next of reader. It will skip header row. This reader object will point from second row onwards, which you have actual data. Now what I will do, I'll try to iterate. So for each row in reader, right? You are iterating through each and every row. So let me print that row. I'm printing that row for your information so that you can understand. I'll try to refactor this again. I can create another module, but for your information, I'm refactoring to make it very easy so that I can show you the results here itself. So read CSV data. This is what a function. This function accepts file path. I'll right click on the file, click on copy path or reference here. For time being, I'm hard coding this entire path. That's it. Let me print each and every row. Observe here, guys, it is what a list. Each row having comma separated values is again, it is a list. But tell me, do I need list of tuples or list of tuples I want? So can I convert this list to tuple? How you can convert? By using typecasting function, right? So go to data providers, tuple of rows, and again each row. Now again execute. You can see now that list is converted to tuple. Now I need to add all these tuples in the form of a list, right? So what I'll do, I'll try to create another list function, data list, which is an empty list here. Now to this data list, I'll try to append each and every tuple, right? So observe here. So data list dot append of a tuple row. So I'll try to print this tuple rows in this data list. So print of data list. Is it right? Good. It is giving me list of tuples. Good. Very good. I'm getting the data as required. Now I'll try to remove these unnecessary things here. Right. Step by step we are learning. We are not skipping anything. Right. We need to understand this. Test underscore data providers. Rename that. test underscore data providers. That's it. Now go to this data driven testing. Like this, try to create another function test with CSV data, right? So at the rate pytest dot mark dot parameterize, right? So you need this order id. So instead of order id, I'm getting list of tuples, which is book id and customer name. So what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a simple function test with CSV data. So this will have book id and customer name. Customer name. That's it. So what I'll do, I'll try to use this with this function. All right. So can I use that? Yes, you can use that. You can just call this function. You can specify that function here as it is. That's it. So this book ID and customer name, you need to get the values from a file, right? With the help of read CSV data function. CSV data function. But you need to import here, comma, read CSV data. Step by step, we are trying to do this. That's it. Now observe here, test data order CSV data dot, is it right? CSV data dot CSV. That's it. Executing the same function multiple times with this parameterization marker. Run Python test. So what I'll do, I'll try to execute this test only instead of all the test. So one failed. Let us see. You see here the issue. If you observe, let us see this. So if you see the CSV data provider, which is a function, it should return this a data list, right? So when I call this function, so what I'll do, I'll try to return this. So return, right? So return data list. That's it. So now come here, let us execute this another time. Observe here, guys. Same function, 5 times it is getting executed. Right? Total 5 tests. It has taken 8 seconds, 62 milliseconds, and each and every order with the order ID and order got deleted. So immediately. All right, the same function. Is it right? So if you see this CSV data, you have 5 data points. How many times this test function needs to be executed? Multiple times. Right? This is how you can do data-driven testing with JSON and CSV. Most of the times we'll go for JSON and CSV only. We'll prefer in API testing. And then another priority goes to Excel file after this JSON and CSV. So what you can do, you can take that as an assignment. You can try to achieve the same data-driven testing with Excel data. I have specified that here, and I have already specified an utility function in this data providers, how you can get the data from an external file, which is an Excel file, how you can pass the data to this function with the help of this parameterization concept. You can try to achieve this. Good. I will show you that as well. So if you see, this is what an Excel data provider. This is another function like JSON data provider, CSV data provider. Another function it will also return me data, which is list of tuples. And you can try to create another function, which is read Excel data, the same syntax with JSON data, CSV data. We need to use the parameterization concept, mark.parameterize marker, book ID, customer name, and read Excel data function, which it will return you list of tuples. The same syntax. You take this as an assignment. Good. Another important observation, we have been seeing this from day 2 onwards, right? You see here, we have created a payload, which is a dictionary. This dictionary, again, you are converting that to JSON string. Why? This API supports JSON, and JSON is having a lot of advantages as well. So dictionary, which is a Python object, you are converting to JSON. that process is called as an serialization. That process is called as an serialization. Once you have the JSON string again converted to Java object or Python object from the server side. Okay, that is deserialization, right? So if you observe, you have an object, right? You have an object. So you have an API. So this API needs to transfer data via network. Is it right? Via network, it needs to transfer data. So to transfer the data via network, it should be a simple data, lightweight data. Is it right? Lightweight data. But this object, it can be Java object, it can be Python object. It's not a lightweight data. So what you need to do, you need to convert this object to lightweight data, which is JSON mostly. So conversion of this object to JSON is called as an serialization. Again, once it is transferred via network from the server side, what you need to do, you need to decode that, then I can get in this actual object, right? So JSON to object again. So this is deserialization, right? Serialization and deserialization. These terms which you see here, you are already converting that, but what they generally mean as serialization and deserialization, right? Some simple concept here. Serialization means converting a Python object. Since we are discussing Python only, so Python object. If you are working with Java object it is, right? So converting a Python object into JSON so that it can be sent over a network. How you are converting by using JSON dot dumps. Deserializing, converting back to JSON, right? Back from JSON to Python object, which is deserialization. So this serialization will be happen in the server side, right? We have seen how you can create a request body, right? So dictionary, JSON, Python custom class, data class, external JSON file. What you have done there, you have used this simple JSON dot dumps to convert these objects to JSON string, right? So we need them serialization, deserialization, sending and receiving data via APIs, save data to files, which is pickling and unpickling, or to databases. You can catch data also if you want to have some communication. For that reasons, we need serialization and deserialization. Right? So Python objects cannot be directly stored or sent because they are very weighted. Only light-weighted things can go easily through network. So you need to convert them. So this conversion is serialization and deserialization. So this is what entire session is about: data-driven testing in API using request library in Python.